Welcome back, everyone. This is a dry bag. And to seal a dry bag, you fill it with something, roll it 3 times, and clip the buckle. I think everyone who watches this channel knows how to seal a dry bag. But here is the point. I have never had a dry bag leak. I've gotten condensation, I've gotten, stuff like that. I've never had a dry bag leak. According to the comments, I am a crazy person, and I'm due. Let's talk about if your dry bag is really dry. Let's go. Good to see you all. I am super excited to be back after a month and change on the road. It is good to be back in my humble gear studio. Oh, I didn't turn on all the lights. Let's get all the lights. That's much better. So I a few weeks ago posted a video. This is what goes in a dry bag. I think in that video I made comment to I've never had a dry bag leak. And I had a very nice comment from someone. I don't remember if it was a regular or not. If it was, I apologize. Just because I've never had a dry bag leak doesn't mean I will never have a dry bag leak. That is true. That is 100% true. I think that the past performance does not equal future results is valid. I think in things like dry bags, it's less relevant than, say, risk management, which I've been talking about lately. I, over the years, have gotten people saying 3 is a minimum. You really got to do 4, 5, 6. This bag right here, which you probably can't see, says roll a minimum of 3 times. To seal, roll at least 3 times and clip, buckle. The only time I have ever rolled a dry bag more than 3 times is if the dry bag is too big and I need to make it smaller just to take up some more space. I've never had a bag leak. And that includes a bag that I found out after years actually had a hole in it. One of my Sea to Summit bags, one of these, this is a very old bag. This is a 13 liter, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 13 liter. This is what I used for food on the inside passage. Years later, Mike, who is one of the owners of Zen Bivy, said, I guarantee you that that bag is not waterproof, and if you fill it with water, you'll see. And I did fill it with water. Unfortunately, I don't have video of that because I had a hard drive crash and lost the video, but it had a puncture hole in it, and it still never leaked. Let's talk about why. You see, in order for a dry bag to leak, even one with a hole in it, there needs to be more pressure on the outside of the bag than on the inside of the bag. There also has to be a way for air to get out so that water can go in. So when I think about a situation like this, where it's inside a boat, there has to be enough water in here to create enough pressure on the bag to actually force water in. And I think in an environment like this where you don't really have that much water, that's pretty hard to do. It also depends on what's in here. So if this is a food bag, which it is, and as I fill it with air, I can see that it definitely has a leak in it. This is a very old bag, circa 2011. If this is filled with sealed plastic food bags like the ones that I use, there's no way for air to get in or out of that because the plastic of the bags is pressed against the outside of this, which is essentially plugging the hole. So this bag definitely has a leak in it. I might fill it with water to figure out where and patch it, but it may not be worth it. The other question is the 3 rolls. Does rolling this 3 times, is that enough? So the way that water would get into this, boy, this feels like it's got a leak in it too. All my bags have holes. In order for water to get into here, it would have to work through this rolled lid, which I can sort of unroll, not easily, if you buckle it the wrong way. So when you buckle this, you want these buckles on the outside. If you do them on the inside, it is easier to unroll that. See, I can completely unroll it. So it's got to work through that roll closure in order for it to be waterproof. I just unrolled this because I buckled it the wrong way. But those wraps are pressing on each other, and I suspect that water can't get in. So I don't think you need to roll it more than 3. I think even with a hole, depending on what's in there, you don't need to worry about it. And then I also think, like, if this bag were filled with gear and ended up in the water, there is going to be residual air trapped in it. It's going to float. There is not going to be any real external pressure forcing the water in. I just don't see this happening. But let's test it out. Let's fill my trusty Yeti bucket with water, put some weight in this, and see if it leaks. Now, I'm pretty sure just from playing with this that this has a leak in it somewhere. I may fill it with water real quick in the bathroom sink just to sort of see if it's leaking. This I occasionally use as a deck bag. I'm not real worried about it leaking. This I am positive, after now playing with it as I'm shooting this, is got a hole in it somewhere. I might do the same with that. So I've got a lot of dry bags. I'm going to try and find some that I feel fairly confident do not have a leak, and we'll see how they do. So both of these Sea to Summit bags leaked at the taped seam. Which is not surprising. They're both pretty old. This one is older than this one. The other thing that is not really surprising is Mike from Zen Bivy told me that would happen. And that's why I like the Zen Bivy bags, because they are not taped seams. They are welded seams. So yeah, bonus points for Zen Bivy. That's why they're my current favorite dry bags. I'm going to buckle these up and let them dry and then figure out what I'm going to do with them. But they can't be retaped, so they will probably go in the garbage, which upsets me a little bit. I'm going to find a couple of dry bags that I am confident do not have a hole, and then we're going to test that roll top closure to see if that is waterproof. I hope it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but I hope it is. I think it is. Let's find out. Okay, so a couple of things before I do this incredibly unscientific, ridiculous test. The first is, if this dry bag goes to the bottom, I don't know that it will. It's got a 10-pound kettlebell in it, along with some towels and some paper towels, and I figured that the paper towels, if they got wet, would show immediately that they were wet. I suspect that that's going to go straight to the bottom with a 10-pound kettlebell and not a whole lot of air in there. The top is only rolled 3 times. That is way more pressure than floating in a compartment that is flooded. This is full-on submersion. And I realized as I was prepping this that these dry bags that I'm using are not paddling dry bags. They are Zen Bivy dry bags made for backpacking. So they're very lightweight. I don't know how that purge valve is going to do. This whole test might be invalid and ridiculous. I don't have a brand new dry bag to try this with. I should have ordered one. I also don't know what I've got in terms of resilience, like how I don't know that any of these bags don't have holes in them. Yeah, so I'm not optimistic that this is going to work. This could just be a waste of time, but I'll be honest, it's a fun waste of time. Let's see what happens. Definite bubbles. And if there are bubbles going in or coming out, then there are definitely water going in. That's a 4th roll, and there is still a little bit of bubble. Maybe you really do need 5 rolls. Like 1 or 2 bubbles every couple seconds. Five rolls is definitely better than 3 rolls, which I guess isn't surprising. That was also pretty submerged. Let's take a look at what's going on inside there and see if it's wet. So I think if the paper towels are wet, that is a dead giveaway, keeping in mind that the outside of the bag is wet. That is dry. That is a dry paper towel. That is a dry paper towel. That's fascinating. So the bubbles that were coming out of this might have just been what was trapped in the closure, and they were working their way out. Obviously, 5 rolls is better than 3 rolls, but looks like 3 rolls will work. Let's try another bag. Amazingly, I do not have like a brand new dry bag. Maybe I should, it's time for me to buy some new dry bags. This is a seal line, also designed for backpacking, which I guess is what I've been using lately. I would love to redo this test with a couple of I'm going to do this. I'm going to order a brand new seal line, a brand new Sea to Summit. We're going to repeat this test. I may also be the first person in history to put a kettlebell in a dry bag. Mildly humorous. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 rolls. Let's give this a shot. Similar bubbles from the seal. That are not stopping. Let's test this one out. Paper towels are dry. Yeah, so I think that air leaking out is from the seal itself, which brings up an interesting point. Okay, so both of the bags that I put in leaked bubbles, which means water should be getting in. I think that is really trapped air, or maybe the beginnings of water going in. But it's taking so much pressure being submerged that I think the likelihood of that happening in a boat or even floating on the water is pretty unlikely. I did see all of my Sea to Summit bags, not all, I think most of my Sea to Summit bags are leaking where the seams are taped, which is exactly what Mike at Zen Bivy said would happen, which is why I switched to his bags. Links to his bags are down below. I think the likelihood of this occurring in a boat in a normal situation is pretty unlikely. I'm sure someone will have problems with the way that I did this. I am not a scientist. I just play one on the internet. So yeah, I think the likelihood of this happening is pretty slim, and I feel like the testing sort of proved that. I did see one other thing that I thought was interesting, which is in testing a bag, I filled it with water and then laid it down, and water did drip out of the rolled seam. Now, this was a pretty old dry bag that I was testing, and it was one that leaked from other places, which is why I didn't include it in the video. I suspect that that's the bag filled with water fighting against that roll top closure is imparting a fair amount of pressure. Again, more pressure than we would have in the real world of this being a situation where your boat floods and your dry bag's in there. So, like, what conclusively do I get from this? I would be willing to bet if you checked your dry bags by filling them with water that you would find leaks. I also think that if you're using those bags with leaks, as I have, you would never notice because in the real world, there isn't enough pressure created to get water into the bags. So I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I think if you want to do 5 rolls, it definitely lets out less air, but I don't know if that's preventing water from getting in because I didn't have any water get in. If you want to do 4 or 5 rolls, go for it. If you want to put your bags, go for it. Do what works for you. Do what gives you peace of mind. Clearly, I have no problem with peace of mind worrying about dry bags leaking because it doesn't seem to be happening, even when they have holes. I am going to order 2 or 3 brand new dry bags, and we're going to redo this test with brand new dry bags and 3 rolls, and we're going to sink them and see what happens. I think that sinking it like that with a kettlebell is ridiculous because it's a ridiculous amount of weight, therefore a ridiculous amount of pressure, right? I have never seen a dry bag sink. There's never that much weight in them versus the air that is trapped in there. So that's all I have for you for this week. I encourage you to fill your bags with water and see if they're leaking, and then decide if they're leaking enough that you feel like you need to replace them. Let me know what you think down below. I am sure you will. Whenever I do science, people get upset with me for the way that I did it. So let me know what I did wrong or better ways to test this. Yeah, cool. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun. This was a blast and eye-opening to really nothing important. All right. Have fun out there. I'll see you on the water. This is the most scientific finding from this test. Under 3 feet of water, GoPro voice command still works. GoPro, stop recording.